Welcome to PHP Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Rolando, and we're on episode 344, an update episode.
Yeah, we love our update episodes. So for those of you who are longtime listeners, you know what the deal is with the update episodes. But if you're new to PHP Podcast, kind of the way we do things is every Monday on YouTube. So YouTube exclusive, we have Monday minis. So they're just short little episodes where we kind of cover one little thing. Then every Wednesday we drop a longer episode like this, and we kind of alternate. So one week will be a themed episode where we talk about a specific topic, maybe garage sales, maybe shipping, something like that. And then on our update episodes, we talk about what's going on in our life reselling wise, what's going on in the reselling world in general, some kind of updates and news and those types of things. And then we also get to give some sweet, spicy BOLOs, things you should be looking out for when you're at garage sales, thrift stores, sourcing locally, whatever you're doing, so that you can make the most money possible. So yeah, how are things going, Orlando?
It's good. Before we start, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button and smash that like button.
Yeah.
We never do that. We never ask people to do that.
That's true. I mean, I do put a little thing on the video.
Oh, that's true. That is true.
That people who are watching can see.
Hey, listen, if every one of you, like I said, that listen to us, just jumped on over and just hit that subscribe, we'd be doing pretty well on YouTube.
Just smash it.
Just subscribe.
Does that make us sound trendy? It's probably not even trendy anymore to say smash. They probably have changed it.
I don't know what it is. Anyways, all right. So all right, I'll start. I got a lot. So I try to break this down into like other portions of the podcast. Just lots going on. All right, let's talk about garage sale season. Now, have you been able to get out there?
No,
you are so missing out.
I know. Just don't remind me. You're killing me. You're killing me. There's always something Saturday mornings. I am going to, before I leave California, I'm going to be hitting up my garage sales. I'm not going to miss out on garage sale season here in San Diego. But it's been tough recently. So I'm doing other type of sourcing.
Yeah, you're in that stage in life for all the like sports activities for kids and stuff. It's always like on Saturday mornings.
Yeah, sports things or like awards or like
I know.
Like kids' birthday parties, all those things. And there's a it's give and take. You've got to work, you've got to make the money. But then also because we're trying to be a little bit more cautious with our sourcing, it's like I don't need to go out and source right now. I'm trying to actually reduce the amount of inventory I have before my move. So I'm not as like I've got to go to a garage sale, but I do got to go to a garage sale.
I will say it's interesting during that phase because it's a struggle. And the other interesting part of that is still to this day, when I tell people Saturday is my busiest day, people are like, "What? That's crazy." But it really is. Like especially if you're a full-time seller that is the everything store, or you just like getting those deals, like you're out there for hours on Saturday morning, then you get home, and if you're doing things right, you have to process everything or at least get everything out of your car, right? And then if you all are about shipping things out on Saturday afternoon, then you got to pack all those things, get to the post office. So for me, I'm pretty much 9 to 5 on Saturdays. Right, because the post office here, their cutoff point is 4:30 p.m. And I do like shipping those priority items on Saturday because you get to the buyers on Monday. So, anyways, it's just something to think about because people always go, "How come you can't hang out on Saturdays?" And it's like that's where I make a ton of the money is on Saturdays.
It's the golden day. Within the golden day, there's golden hour.
There you go. All right, so garage sales have been great because I was concerned that this whole community garage sale season wasn't going to happen, but the last 2 Saturdays have been great. Now, I did take a risk this last Saturday. I haven't done this in a long time. It's been about 2 years since I did this, where there was a community garage sale about an hour 10 minutes away, and it's always risky, right? And if you haven't caught our, I think, okay, where are we at? We still have to, we haven't recorded our Monday minisode, right?
No.
Okay. So check out our Monday minisode before this podcast dropped. So yes, before this podcast dropped. So you can catch on why community garage sales can be a win, or sometimes why it's better to just go to the one-off garage sales. And the reason why it's risky is you can drive an hour out, right? This was my worry because there was like 20 to 30 in my area. But I was like, hey, if I go to community garage sale, this is a nice part of town. I can really score. But the danger is you drive all that way and there's like 3 houses, right? This one said 1,500 home community garage sale,
Yeah, when they only tell you how many homes are in the community
that was my worry.
How many are participating.
Yes.
Yeah, that's always rough.
It didn't tell me how many were participating, but it was in Carlsbad, which is a nice part of San Diego. So I was like, all right, maybe, there'll be a lot of garage sales because I know those communities that are really nice. They don't like having the community garage sales because everybody shows up, right? And they don't like dealing with all the people that show up. And so I was like, all right, maybe it's going to be worth it. So I drove the hour. I got up at 5 something in the morning, got there a little bit before 7. And it was wild. I mean, there's people everywhere, but here's the beauty of it. And we talk about this on the minisode. What do you like more? Do you like the ones that are like every single address is already listed on the ad? Or do you like the ones where you're just freestyling? Like, that there's a community garage sale, but it's like a mystery. Like, you never know what corner is going to have that gold mine.
Yeah, I like the freestyle for sure. There's a lot of reasons I like the freestyle. I mean, it's nice if you can like plan out your route, but a lot of times everybody else has that same data. So the houses that are first are the ones everyone's going to. So you pick one in the middle, but then they don't always list them by like the way they are in the plate. I like to just go and kind of find like, all right, I'm going to get to where people aren't. I'm going to hit these areas and then kind of work my way. That's kind of how I prefer to do it. So
see, I'm back and forth because I've done the freestyle one and you could be driving sometimes for like 20 minutes and you don't find one. The beauty about this one is there are so many houses having garage sales, you couldn't miss it.
Well, and yeah, that's got to be the key. It's got to be, I want one with a map. Like we've had some out here like in Lakeside where it's like a community garage sale, but it's over like 10 square miles is this, community. Yeah. It's huge. So you've got to have a map. You got to know. But when it's like a housing tract and it's basically almost every other house or more is having a garage sale, they've got stuff out in front of their house. Those are the ones where you really don't need a map. You can kind of you're just driving around the neighborhood. Now you can get lost. I'm pretty good with like mazes as far as that goes. I'm bad with directions, but I just know as long as I'm always turning left, I'm going to get to where I need to go. That type of a thing. But yeah, but if it is like one where it's more spread out, I absolutely need a map or I want to have it listed out for me. And so, yes, our listeners who are out in more rural areas, they're probably like, what are you talking about? I want a map. But I'm talking like sometimes we have them here where you're going into a gated community and the houses are like 5 feet from each other. There are no yards. The yards are like, tiny, tiny little yards. And every house along the way is having a garage sale, or like you can just see rows of houses and there's just stuff in front of every garage. That's when it's like, I don't need a map.
It's kind of like garage sale heaven.
Yeah. It's
like instead of paved with streets of gold, it's just paved with streets of garage
sales. The first time you took me out to garage sales, it was one of those. Yeah.
It was the one where Orlando just stops in the middle of the street and just gets out regardless of.
And I'm trying to take my time looking at stuff and you're like, get in the car, let's go. And I'm like, okay.
Well, that's what this one was like. And I loved it because the best score, I can't go into all of it. You should always follow us on Instagram because I post these on Saturday. And I really do love posting these on Saturday because I get great feedback when people are like, oh, you should really look into this one or you missed out on this. Those messages are nice only if I can make it back. But, I turned the corner and it's the best when it's 7. It was 7:30 in the morning. So I had been to a lot of garage sales that there's a ton of people. No one was at this one. There was nobody. And I show up and there's bags and bags of items and they're clear bags. And they weren't like trash bags, but they're, like the vacuum sealed, like the ones where people like put stuff in storage kind of bags.
Right.
And I show up and there's this lady here there. And I'm like, hey, where's all this stuff from? She's like, oh, my kids are all grown and stuff. And this has been sitting in the garage for years. And I just thought, what a great time to just sell. I was like, yeah. So I'm thinking in my head, I ask her like, how old are your kids? And she's like, oh, late 20s, early 30s. So I'm like, all right. So at least this is maybe not, great vintage, like 90s items, but maybe they're early 2000s, 2010s. Mm-hmm. And so I start going through this stuff. It's overwhelming. And I could tell some of the stuff had that kind of moldy, musty smell too. So I was like, but I'm going through it. And I'm finding vintage hat after vintage hat after vintage hat. And I asked her, like, how much do you want? And I had like 10 hats. And she goes, I don't know, like $1 for all of them. I'm like, okay. Like I didn't even haggle on this one. And now here's the danger. How much time do I spend here? Am I missing out on other garage sales? But at the same time, no one's around. So I need to move quick because once people get here, then you're going to feel the major pressure of how much time they want to spend. So then I see this I don't know, this bucket full of like cassette tapes, and there's some vintage like 80s R&B and rap in there and stuff like that. And, you know, we've talked about like, you know, some of those tapes could go for like, you know, anywhere from 10 to 20 a piece to in the hundreds. And I saw a few in there and I was like, okay, how much do you want? She's like, you know, you can take them all for $2. And I thought, why not ask? And I'm like, how about just $1?
Oh, come on, Orlando.
But she said yes. She did not care. And then I found this vintage.
See, I feel like that's when you might be going a little too far.
No,
at that
but
point.
she wanted to help me out. I'm not going to take that blessing away. So then I said, what about this Crash Bandicoot plush? Can we just throw that in there? And she's like, sure, just throw it in there.
See, that's when you just need to say like, let's just make it how much for everything. And then you fill up a trailer and you take it all.
But that was the thing. I thought I was done. And then I go back to my car and I'm like, I need to go back. The deal's too good. So I went back and then I found this bag full of, had Merrill shoes, had some hard to find Vans in there and stuff. And I was like, how much for all these shoes? And she's like, $1. And I was like, okay. And so I just kept going back and going back. But it was a reminder to me of community garage sales are a great place, especially if like the addresses aren't lined up, to find major scores. And so, you know, I just kept buying it and she didn't care. She's like, you know, take whatever you want, you know what? And then she actually started pointing out stuff. She's like, how about that over? You want to just throw that into your, you know, and I spent at this garage sale, I think like $4.
Wow.
And I'm probably going to make hundreds off of it. But it wasn't one of those things where, you know, if it was like a neighborhood that people weren't making that much money, I probably would have gone back and said, you know what? Here's like $30-$40. So for example, I went to a rummage sale and I knew they were trying to fundraise money. Okay. So I'm not that bad. Okay. Yeah. And I, you know, so I went to a rummage sale. I know they're trying to raise money for kids to go somewhere. And, you know, they said you pay whatever you want. And that's always hard for me. That's right. Hard, yeah. So I you know, something I bought like a couple pair of docks and stuff, which I would normally at a garage sale would have paid like $2 or $3. And I just gave them 40. And I was like, you know, here you go. Like, so please understand, okay, Orlando makes deals when he makes deals, but he also has a heart. Okay. I do have a soul.
And it's weird, especially when you go to, we've talked before about like wealthy neighborhoods and there's like a weird in between, but you run into two types of people when you're in the like very, very wealthy areas. Usually like multi-millionaires and like they're not having garage sales, but like there's like really, really upper class middle or upper middle class that are having garage sales. And one of two things happens. One, they're so disconnected with money that you ask how much for things and they're like, I don't know, $50 for that, $100 for that. Cause to them, that's nothing. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, I'm never making a deal with you. And if you try and go low numbers, they're like, it's almost insulting to them. You're like, it'd be like if someone came to our garage sales and said like, I'll give you a penny. And to them, they're like, penny? What do you know? You know, that's kind of what they're thinking when you are offering $1, $5 for things. Cause they're like, no, I paid $100 for that. So you can get it for $50. Like this is a garage sale. And they're so disconnected. And then the other side of people being disconnected to money is like with where you were at, where they don't really care. It's like, this thing was expensive. And they're like, I don't know, you could have to take it for $1. No, right? I'm just getting rid of all this stuff. Yeah.
She did. So
you have both ends of the spectrum.
I mean, even her husband came out later. So the hard thing about freestyling garage sales is you might end up at the same garage sale. Right. So I kept making the wrong turn. I drove by it like 2 or 3 times. So I stopped one more time and her husband out there and I overheard him saying, so are you moving this stuff? She's like, yeah, I'm trying to get rid of it. So it's all good. It's all good. But it was a great garage sale morning. I really appreciated that. And it was nice because when I made those wrong turns and ended up driving by on accident, I see all these people and I'm like, I already made out with the good stuff, you know, and there's probably other stuff there. I just end up going to other garage sales. So there was that. There's also this, I had somebody reach out to me, a listener of the podcast and who we've made great deals with before. And I always tell people, always network with other resellers, So they reached out to me and I may have another great connection of getting inventory. And I don't want to share too much right now, but it was just a great connection.
It's the one you shared with me and you got me kind of upset.
I did.
It's all good.
Because the problem is, okay. Now people are going to start questioning me. Okay, here's the thing. Mike could and can partake on this connection. The problem is Mike is going to Texas. So what I told Mike is the amount of money I'm going to make in this connection is probably the amount of money you're saving by going to Texas. That's how we're gonna.
Is that how you're gonna rationalize?
That's how
it's fine. It's fine.
Hey, listen, it's open. I told you about it. All right. Okay. Now this last thing, and I'll be quiet after this. And maybe this needs to be on the reseller topic. Should I move? Remember that discussion I had about like eBay? It's not good enough to just have good items. Should I move that to reseller topics, or should we just discuss it now?
Yeah, we can move it. That's fine.
All right. Talk to me about how things are going.
So. Like I said, I haven't had time to do the garage sale thing, but I still do quite a bit of like local deals. The nice thing with those is I have a little bit more flexibility as far as, there's a lot of annoyance with local deals, especially local pickup stuff where you're trying to meet somebody and it's like, well, does this time work? Especially when you find a really good deal, like, hey, I got a great deal on this camera, but you can't ever like sync schedules. And then so you just almost have to like watch it go away. It's like, that's always hard.
That's the worst. Sounds terrible too.
Yeah. So it's like I'm at school and it's like, well, can you come right now? And it's like, no, like I can come at this time. And like, well, how about at this time? It's like, well, I can come tomorrow at that time, but not today. And so you run into issues for sure with a local deal, especially if you've got a full-time job. However, I also still have like my retail arbitrage stuff that I do. And it's not often. I'm not like every single day. But I would say I'm on like a rotation where at least once every couple of weeks, there's certain stores I'm hitting on my way home. And there's certain areas in the store I know to go to. And that's one of the nice things about reselling long enough is you kind of get into a couple niches where you learn, or even just, like, hey, this store has a really good clearance section. And this store has a clearance section that looks good, but because it's a big box store, those things end up being super cheap everywhere. So it's not worth it. So you kind of learn those things the longer you're in an area, the longer you learn, a certain niche in reselling. So there's a few places I go to. There's a couple Rosses I go to for certain things, some other places I go to. So I went to Ross on the way home and it's kind of like my rounds, right? And I noticed that like the normal things I've kind of been looking for over the last several months and have scored on, it's like, it's drying up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so when you see that, it's like,
supply chain.
I don't know if it's supply chain. I don't know what's going on. So I'll give you an example. So this isn't one where I'd say I make a ton of money on, but occasionally I make some money on fragrances.
Are you dropping a bolo here?
No, I mean, I've talked about it in the past. I'm kind of into colognes. I don't know the perfume world that well, but I've been getting into colognes more and more. And so getting into the fragrances and Marshall's, TJ Maxx, Ross, those rack stores, occasionally you're able to find stuff that's like pretty decent. It's not always. A lot of times it's like, this would be a good deal personally. Every once in a while you find like, this is resellable. And it's not all the time. It's very occasional, but because I collect it on my own too, it's one of those things where it's worth going. And when I do find that, hey, I could pick up 3 of these and I can sell them at $40 a profit each. And then I know TJ Maxx in this area has this, or Ross in this area has this, I can go hit up a bunch of them. So I'd say a few times a year, I'm able to like get a score that's worth it. Like several $100s worth, I know, to hit up these stores. And I walk into this TJ Maxx and we're getting close to Mother's Day right now. And so I would anticipate like the perfume would be empty and that kind of stuff, but it was the men's fragrances and it almost empty. And I haven't seen it like that before. So I don't know like what's going on, maybe something. And again, that could be, maybe it's not a pattern. Maybe it's just those couple of stores. But if I notice a pattern like that, that might be a signal that, okay, maybe there is something going on with supply chain or something, which could increase values in that. All that to say, tried that. And the other place that I often try, and I don't know if I've talked about this on podcast before, so hopefully I'm not killing my market here. Maybe I am. I'm going to do it anyways.
It's
whatever.
It's hilarious because we used to say that when we only had like a few hundred listeners.
I know.
Now you are going to kill your market, but go ahead.
I could. Okay, so I've done actually really well at Barnes and Noble in their clearance section.
Really?
Yeah. So not
I
for
used to
books.
source that. It was hard to find things though. Maybe things have changed.
Well, that's the point I'm trying to make, is that it's kind of going back. So there was like a season where I could go there and again, it's not every day. It wasn't like you could walk in there and anytime you walk in, you're walking out with hundreds of dollars in profit. Yeah. But if you would go once a week, there's a good chance that there's something in there you can make $20 on, something in there you can make $40 on. And every once in a while you'd find like, hey, they've got like, and board games was a lot of times where that money would come for me, where they would have clearance board games that sell for, $70, $80 on eBay. And they're on clearance for whatever reason for like $20 at Barnes and Noble. and there's not just one of them, but there's like 7 of them. Right. And that's when it's like, okay, this is a sweet deal. Pick them all up. Maybe check the next Barnes & Noble and they have those too.
Yeah.
But I've noticed over the last couple of months, same thing. The Barnes & Noble clearance section has changed. Like the things that the selection is getting less and less. The prices and the discounts are getting less and less, which is weird because typically when we're talking about this type of economy, more and more things go on sale. But it's almost like
maybe people are going to clearance first before they buy it.
It could be. So it could be that's where people are shopping. And so all the good stuff is just going fast. Or that the stores know that. And so they're not clearancing as many things and they're trying to like get the money for the stuff that they have. I don't know what is going on, but let us know in the comments below. Have you noticed like a shift in, some of the places you normally shop? I mean, I know it's only 2 anecdotal evidences of like, hey, I like this specific niche, and even toys at Ross. Occasionally I'll do okay on toys at Ross. But like, I'm like, man, it's just the last couple of months have felt drier to me at these kind of places where I wouldn't say they're bread and butter for me, but I've never gone like 2 months of not like walking out of the store like, all right, sweet, I made $200 today. And it's kind of been like consistent, and it's almost like it's getting worse. So I don't know if that's just a sign that I need to shift into a different niche or a different style, or maybe that's just a sign that right now this isn't where money is going to be made. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, still doing the local deals thing. That's where a lot of the money's coming from is local deals. Haven't been selling as much local, which I kind of need to because of the move that I've got coming up. I've got quite a few bigger things that I kind of want to move quickly. But again, I feel like there's almost more pressure as the seller than the buyer, right? When you're a buyer, you can kind of make the decision of like, hey, I'm trying to buy this thing. If the schedule thing doesn't work out, oh, well, is it really worth it? If it's really worth it, I'll make it work. But when you're the seller and you're just getting message after message on things, and then you're trying to constantly worry about like, okay, I can meet up at this time at this place. That's where it's like, it's not worth it unless it's higher end stuff. So I do a lot of local, but it tends to be things that are over $100 and are large things that wouldn't be fun to ship. So I need to kind of shift more towards selling instead of sourcing, which I think is a lot of resellers, right? Like I think we all source a little bit more than we sell.
Well, that's why I don't like local deals. I just don't do them. I will do them if it's something I absolutely don't like want to deal with. But that's very rare. Like I just stole did you notice my my statue or
yes.
the statue. So I had this huge art piece.
Yeah, we'd have to move it around the studio every time we'd set up lights to record, and I'd be like moving this giant thing around.
Yeah, so it weighed 50 pounds, but I just didn't want to deal with all the flakes. And so I just let it sit, and it sold in like in 2 months. I paid 25 and I sold it for 125. Right now, the shipping, it did take some time. It took me about 45 minutes to get it packed. But to me, that was better than driving out, waiting for somebody. They may show up, they may be late, and then driving. I mean, that's another 45 minutes I'm dealing in loss, right? And so just it is what it is. I've gotten comfortable with shipping big things, so I don't stress shipping big things.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't like the work. I mean, I sold an Onkyo receiver the other day.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm done sourcing them. I sold it. I paid like $5 for it and sold it for 50. But it was such a pain to pack.
They're heavy, and then also you got to be careful because you're not wanting to break knobs and
you have to
levers,
like super bubble wrap the corners and you have to kind of float it a little bit. It just I'm not doing it anymore. It was not worth my time. So hey, before we move on, something that will save you time is My Reseller Genie.
Yes.
So if you have not signed up for My Reseller Genie and you're a reseller or you're brand new, and you're kind of worried about, understanding your numbers, or you're worried about taxes and so on, My Reseller Genie is a great tool. It'll allow you to import all your stuff from the previous year. And even now, right, it'll start importing all the eBay data live. And so check it out. It's a great way to just see where you're at. You may be sourcing garage sales only or thrift stores, and you're kind of like, I don't like doing the Excel spreadsheets. The My Reseller Genie takes care of all of that for you. So definitely check them out. You get a free 15% off the first month using our promo code Pure Hustle. Go to the link below. Again, promo code Pure Hustle, all caps, and you'll get 15% off the first month. And I guarantee, I can't guarantee everything because everybody has their things that they like to use. But I will say for myself, I really like My Reseller Genie. I do believe it's reseller friendly. So check it out.
Yeah.
Is it okay not to guarantee? I can't guarantee everybody will like everything.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's a high chance. I mean, we've got a couple episodes ago, maybe it was our last episode, one of the tips we gave was like emptying out your car right away after you're done with garage sales. And I'm pretty sure it was on our Discord. Somebody had mentioned, yes, that's something they have to do. They got home from a big sale and it's going to take a lot of time to get all of their stuff out, get all of their stuff like inventoried, pictured, and put into My Reseller Genie. Right? They even mentioned that. And it's true. Like once you get it listed, if you got that tier, it's doing a lot of that for you. And it is like, oh man, is this an extra step for me? But the reality is the data that you get from it, on top of the fact that you are going to save 10 times that amount of time when it comes to tax time, and you've got all that information. It's already done. It's already in there. And you think, man, the 5-10 minutes I'm spending when I get done with my garage sales compared to the hours and hours I'm going to be saving when it comes to tax time, man, it makes My Reseller Genie so worth it.
It just cracks me up because the creators of My Reseller Genie, they would ask me like, what do I do for my taxes? And I would talk about how I would spend hours upon hours going over inventory that sold and didn't sell and so on. And I was like, it's such a pain. They're like, hey, Orlando, you could do that up front with My Reseller Genie. I was like, oh, really? Oh, because I think they thought I was crazy in the beginning because I would share my process and they're accountants.
They're like, are you just joking?
Yeah. They're like, what they said is this. They said, you are very unique in the way you do things. That's what they said.
Well, they're probably thinking like, it's like us, like when somebody's new to reselling and they're like, well, this thing sold. So I went to the UPS store and I bought a box there. And then I bought the peanuts there. And then I had them put it in there. And then I bought the label there and it costs a bunch of money. You'd be like, why are you doing it that way? Like there's a cheaper, easier way to do this.
Yeah, that's basically that conversation we had.
Yeah.
So
you just didn't know. It's okay.
All right. So what do you want to hear from? Do you want to hear from about the angry buyer or the demanding buyer for my random stories?
Definitely angry.
Okay. But the demanding buyer is a funny story.
Well, then why'd you give me an option?
It's still in process. Okay. So again, I'm going to reiterate, resellers are the worst buyers. And the reason I want to share this is I want to encourage everyone to always keep your cool. Always keep your cool. No matter how angry the message, no matter if they cuss you out, no matter if they tell you that you're the worst person on earth, just keep your cool. Okay. So here's what happened. So I've been selling a lot of ticket stubs lately and I've never had a complaint. And the way I pack mine is I bubble wrap it and then I will put cardboard around it. Like, I'll put 2 flat pieces of cardboard to keep it.
Cardboard first, right? Before bubble wrap?
Maybe I should be doing that.
Yeah.
But okay. Anyways. I think on this one, I was fast and I put the bubble wrap first. Anyways, okay. But still, you should still be okay. The only reason I have found that people end up damaging, like, I have never had anybody damage a ticket, but I've had people damage clothing, is that they'll just take a pair of scissors and just cut off the top and they end up like cutting the shirt or the dress or whatever. So somebody messaged me, said, sorry, but worst pack job ever. You packed a single thin ticket stub in bubble wrap only. Seriously? Got damaged during opening. I'm like reading this. I'm like, no. So basically I just wrapped something in bubble and threw it in an envelope. Like I would never do that. So then they said, communication from you, non-existent. Terrible. Better off sending it in the stay flat than padded. Unnecessary by all accounts based on what I paid for shipping. They only paid $4, by the way. Okay. First class. Disappointing for sure. Paid $25 for trash. Sorry. Then they said, greatly disappointed. When I'm allowed to leave negative feedback, I will most certainly will. I want nothing back from you, but I definitely will not buy from you again. Best wishes. So I'm reading this. And I'm like, okay. I bubble wrapped the thing, put it in cardboard, and then I put in a bubbled poly mailer. I did everything I could, and I've never had it. I've sold hundreds of ticket stubs and never had a complaint. Not one single complaint. So if I was like new, I kind of would have been like, okay, maybe I messed up. Maybe there's something wrong. Like you just questioned me. I wonder what people would say. Would people say bubble wrap first or bubble wrap after?
No, bubble wrap after.
Okay, all right, whatever. But I've never had a complaint, okay? Never had a complaint. I've sold several $100 tickets without a complaint, okay? And I do think, I don't know why this one I did the bubble wrap and then the cardboard. I don't know why. Doesn't matter. It arrived safely. Did you catch how did it get damaged?
The unwrapping.
Yeah. Okay, not my problem. All right. So I didn't know how to respond to this because I'm like, I'm not going to refund this guy because this guy damaged it. Right. I'm also not gonna admit to like do anything wrong because I properly packed it. So then I said, this is how I responded. I said, I'm not sure what to say, but I've shipped many tickets throughout the years without a problem. Ticket was bubble wrapped, put in a cardboard sleeve, and placed in a bubble poly mailer. This is the first communication I've received. This is an error. Please let me know. Right. So we have always said you got to play dumb, right? Like, I'm not sure what happened. So they said, my apologies on the communication aspect. That was not a fair statement, but the rest stands as stated. I will not be leaving any negative feedback. Regardless, I will enjoy. Oh, they said, I will not be leaving any feedback. Regardless, I will still enjoy the ticket. I'm like, what? Okay. So I just said, all good. Thank you for getting back to me. And the conversation ended. What are your thoughts on this communication here?
I don't know. I mean, people get angry. They say things. So, I mean, I the mad respect for this buyer for at least admitting like, hey, okay, maybe I was a little bit off there. That takes a lot for someone to say that. And then also for them to kind of take away the, I'm going to leave you negative feedback. Like that's nice of them to do. But I mean, to be fair, I could see how if you've got something that's like rare and fragile, like piece of paper, that if it's wrapped in something and you go to unwrap it, like things can get like bent, like you're unwrapping and then it bends. So I could see how they would think it has to do with the wrapping, but even still there's a proper way of addressing that, right? Because if it was like, hey, because it sold for what, $25?
$25, man.
Right? Like you would have
a big deal.
I think when it really came down to it, like if somebody came nicely to you and said like, hey, based off of the way it was packaged, like it got damaged, can I get a partial refund or can I send it back? Like you would have dealt with that. I was
about to refund them.
Right, exactly.
I felt really bad for them. Like I myself, if I bought something I really treasured and I damaged it, I'm not the kind of person that would message them, but I can kind of be in their shoes and go like, man, that's I just
think about it like this. Like if let's say you put bubble wrap on or any kind of wrapping.
You can tell this is a Reselling podcast when we start talking about bubble wrapping.
Let's say it's bubble wrap or even like newspaper or some kind of paper, anything that you put on, I don't know, let's just say it's a shoe, right? Yeah. And let's say like part of it, like is in the heat of during shipping, part of that's like melted onto the item. Like that's not their fault. And it's, in some ways it's not your fault. Like,
100% you got to be careful with those. I know what you're talking about.
But that's what I mean. So like, the reality is things can get messed up based off of the way they're packaged, even if they're packaged well. And so that's why there's a fine line, because you could do everything to do it right. Like you could use wax paper or you can use like tissue paper to protect from those types of things, and then bubble wrap and then cardboard and then float. And then it's like, well, you don't have to do that for everything, but so anything can really happen. And so, yeah, as a seller and as a buyer, like you get something and it's not always your fault. It could be like, hey, this got damaged. I peeled off the bubble wrap and I didn't like do it slowly enough, and part of it stuck on the thing, and now I have to like scrape it off, and now my thing is like messed up. And so technically I damaged it, but also like this kind of sucks because it had to do with the shipping. And so I could see why a buyer would be angry, but again, you're going to be better off by just saying like, hey, this happened. Like, just want to let you know. Cause yeah, you would have refunded it. Right.
I was about to, but then I was kind of like, but this guy's a punk.
But does that say though that you're maybe playing by emotions instead of just like raw business?
No, my message was raw business. I waited a day. I waited like a couple hours before I messaged, because I'm like, all right, let me just go back to this a couple hours, And then he or she waited a whole day and then got back to me. So I don't know. Anyways, let us know in the comments. All right, this is an interesting one. So we mentioned before, in case you don't know, eBay does not require white backgrounds anymore, right? I used to push it all the time, but they're saying now that it's not that big of a deal. They will say that it does give a cleaner look, right, a crisper look, and people are more likely to click on your item if you have a white clean background, but it's not necessary. But maybe this scenario here, it applied. So I sold a plush dog. Okay. And it's a bigger dog. And so this person messages me and says, can I see actual pictures of plush dog? I'm like, okay, maybe they think it's fake. Maybe they think I'm just, sending whatever. So all I could tell them is, hey, I don't have those pictures anymore. I delete after uploading them to eBay. But if you'd like me to cancel, please let me know. Because I just didn't want to hassle with this person. Then they message, I like to see them and porches. So I don't know if there's a language barrier, but does he want me to like model the dog on like a porch?
I think in pictures.
Okay, so then I said, unfortunately, I cannot accommodate. But then I thought about it and I was like, okay, I'll play this game.
But I mean, again, like it's pictures. They meant to say pictures. It's just autocorrect.
So then I just went to my lawn and I put the see. Look at the nice dog. Look at the nice dog. Yeah. Okay. So I put the dog on the lawn. I took pictures of it and I said, it's not a porch, but here you have you can look at.
You said it's not a porch. They didn't mean porch.
What do they mean?
Pictures. I want to see it in pictures.
I like to see him and porches. So did you see what I replied? I said, I was able to free up some time. Not a porch, but I was able to take some pictures on the lawn.
Oh my gosh. Orlando.
What? Wait. I can read English. They wrote porch. So
yeah, you got to use context clues. Context clues. If so, oh my God.
So I like to see him in pictures.
Yes. I just want to see it in pictures of it.
But I already sent the pictures.
Yeah.
So they haven't gotten back to me yet. But
I not a porch, but it's a lawn.
I said not a porch, but I was able to take some pictures on the lawn.
Oh my gosh.
So, there's some pictures of if you can see this, I don't know if you can see this on the camera, of the doggy on the lawn.
Orlando.
Anyways, okay. What is the lesson in all this? Sometimes it's just not worth the effort when people want you to do things. Like all the time, the worst are the people that are like, hey, can you measure the foot at its widest and send it to me? Anyway, so maybe, and this is an international sale because I try to send them an invoice. So maybe it was a language barrier. So
I mean, language barrier, but just like a misspelled word. Pictures. I didn't want it on porch.
I thought that's what they were looking for. They wanted pictures of the plush dog on a porch. Okay. Anyways, stay tuned if this sale actually goes through. All right. Do you have any random stories outside of my weirdo ones?
Yeah. So this one's weird. So we've talked about Temu. Again, I need to watch a YouTube video to see if that's how it's pronounced. Might be Temu. Anyways, I've actually bought quite a few things from them and have been pretty happy. And one of the things that I've recently gotten, I got a good deal because like you can kind of manipulate the system. It's an interesting app. You've mentioned too, they're really good about like emailing you and messaging you stuff all the time. And
they are
relentless. You just got $100 coupon. And so like, you click on it, you want to see like, or you want a free prize. And they actually do some pretty good deals. Like I want to get, those gel blasters, those little Orbi beads. Little water beads that you put in water and they they have guns now that shoot those and they're really cool. And so I bought one for me and one for my son. If you get them on Amazon, they're like blowing up. If you get them on Amazon, they're like anywhere from $40 to $50 a piece. Not too bad for what they are. You can get them on Temu for like $25-26. And I had them in my cart for a while and I was kind of just seeing like, are they going to keep offering new deals? And every once in a while they would. Sure enough, I got an email and they like offered one of them. They discounted one of them down to $8. So I paid like $35 for two of them free shipping.
Wow.
And so I'm like,
free shipping is wild.
It's crazy that you get that. So anyways, I was talking to a friend of mine at work and he was mentioning how he's seeing these gel blasters at swap meets like crazy. And I'm like, oh yeah, I know exactly what's happening, right?
Viper status.
Exactly. And so I asked him, I said, well, how much are they selling them there? He's like, well, the small ones, the little ones, which sell on Temu for like, if they're not on sale, you don't have any specials, maybe $20, but a lot of times they're like $15. Mm-hmm. And he said, like $30, $35 for these guns, but they're pretty cool. And I'm like, yeah, like they're buying them on this website, right? So I know people are using these and they're using Temu to like sell things at garage sales or more likely swap meets. And so anyways, I'm like looking through it and somebody on our Discord had made a comment that like they liked Temu because you could get like, you could spam the referral and get like a free Nintendo Switch. And so I was like, I want to see like what is on this app. So I'm like looking through things and they've got like an affiliate link thing, which is, not a bad one. Everybody can sign up. Like you don't have to be like a YouTuber to get their affiliate.
No, we got approached to be Temu influencers.
Yeah. So, man, maybe we should have done it. They're actually really smart marketing.
We can still do it.
And they've got smart marketing in the sense of they know how to part of it. And one of the guys in our Discord, we were going back and forth talking about this and he kind of mentioned it's almost like a game app. Like they kind of gamify things. Like when you're buying things, like, you can spin the wheel and you'll get this discount.
Dopamine, man.
They're really good at the dopamine hit. And so anyways, I was looking through the like offers and free things and they had a thing where it was like, you can get a gift. And so again, it's like, they're like a casino. Like or video games. Video games are specifically set up to like release dopamine in certain levels. So like, not to get like scientific, I'm not a scientist, but like, dopamine is the chemical in your brain that is like excitement, happiness, like it drives you forward. It's that thing you get, when you're scrolling on your phone or you eat a piece of chocolate, whatever. So it's that like pleasure hormone. So video games release a bunch of dopamine right off the bat, like the beginning of the game. Accomplishments are easy. Mm-hmm. And then as time goes, it gets a little bit harder. And I think even eBay does this, right? Like when you're new to eBay, I feel like they try and push your stuff. Mm-hmm. They're trying to get you to sell. They want you hooked into the system. And so anyways, I do this thing. I get 2 free gifts, right? And one of them is an OED Nintendo Switch, like the big one.
Oh.
But in order to unlock that free gift, you have 24 hours to like do this thing, right? And so they like...
Is this why you asked me if I downloaded the app?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I wanted to do it as an experiment because I wanted to share with our listeners, like, is this something that's worth doing? Because I think Temu is useful as a reseller for potentially buying items in bulk and selling, and not even huge bulk. Like you don't have to do the like the Alibaba thing where you've got to buy like 1,000 of something, right? Like you can buy 1 of something and you can buy 50 of something. You can buy it in whatever increments you want. And then sell it, something like a swap meet or even your own garage sales, however you want to do that. And so I'm just kind of experimenting with this. And so I'll kind of show you what it looked like. So that you have to like earn the money that the things cost, but like the first so it's like $330 I have to like cut off of the price. And the first like $300 came free. Like I just had to like spin a wheel a couple times. It's like you knocked off $250 and you want a free spin. And right. So now it's like I've only got like $35 left. I've got to knock off this.
He may be the Amazon killer.
It's very gamified.
Serious.
It's very gamified. So I'm like, wow, this is like, I'm already getting really close to getting this free Switch, right?
Oh, wow.
And
you want me to buy something?
No, so it's not buying something. This is how they get you. So in order to knock off more money, so I had like $30 some I had to knock off. But you can get $20 knocked off by just like inviting a friend. So like I invited my wife, like, sweet, let's see if it, sure enough, boom. Now it's down to like $16 or whatever I have to be able to knock off. So you can get up to $2 off per referral person. So it's like, okay, fine. I'll just test this. Because if this is like the person on my Discord said, if it's true, if it's like, I've got to get 10 people to be referred to this thing and I get a free $300 item, that's a pretty sweet thing. I'd want to share that with the listeners. Like, hey, if you've got 10 friends, family, like you can get something free, maybe flip it on eBay.
Are you just trying to get all our listeners to sign up?
No, because I'm against it now. That's why I ran this. That's why I ran this experiment. I don't think it's worth it. I think it's now it could be worth it. To be honest, I could use probably our platform and say like, hey, if I can just get like 30 or 40 people to sign up and I'd get something for free, but I don't think it's worth it to all the people you're getting to sign up. I think Temu is good to get, like, I would tell a friend like, hey, you should download this app and buy something from it. But I sent out this invite to a ton of people, and each person that actually took the time to do it and say, okay, I'll sign up for you. The first person, I got $2 cut off. Basically, it's like getting $2.
Show you.
Yeah, they show you.
That's crazy.
So the first person, I got $2 cut off. The next person, I got $1.80 cut off, and I've got to get the number down to 0. So I got to get all this money cut off. The next person was $1.60. The next person was $1.40. At this rate, every new person that signs up, I'm making less and less on. So with 1120, it's like at most I've got like maybe 5 more people to sign up. No, it's actually probably closer to like 20 people I've got to get signed up. Wow. And not only do they have to download it, I mean, that's all they have to do. They have to download it, but it doesn't just download the app for them. It downloads the app with the pick your free gift. And so then they pick a free gift, and then now they're trying to invite people. So it's almost like I felt like I even posted this in the Discord, like, hey, I want to test this thing out. I want to talk about it on the podcast. Don't feel like you have to click it, but if anybody wants to like click on this, I just want to see what it does. Right. And I had a few people do it. And the conclusion is, man, I feel like this is very like almost like pyramid scheme-ish. Now, if you have a huge network of people, if you can get a ton of people to do it, I think right now, if I wanted to, because I've only got a little bit of time left, let's see, it's like 20 hours left or something, 17 hours left. If I really wanted to, I could bug the rest of my friends and family and probably a bunch of people on the podcast, and I could get this free Switch. But even then, somebody on our Discord was able to do it, and they said, "Oh yeah, they've been out of stock on it. But if you like hawk it, as soon as it comes back in stock, you just redeem your gift." And he goes, "A bunch of people have been redeeming their gifts. I just am not hawking it enough to do it." And I'm like, so I can spend all this time to get this free thing and then still have to like basically wait for the right moment when it's in stock and then try and get it. I'm like, this is just it's not worth it, but at the same time, it's genius by Temu. Like I think I got like 6 people or 7 people to sign up for this thing today. Just because I was like, this is interesting. And I'm like thinking, man, I'm getting a free Switch. Like, this is sweet. It's going to be like, I need like 3 more people to sign up. And lo and behold, the reality is I've got 17 hours left. And there's a lot of people who are going to do something like this and they're going to get suckered in. Now, all this to be said, I think that Temu is a great app that you can potentially use to get some stuff. Be careful because there's a lot of stuff that you could sell that would technically be fake. I'm not advocating for that. But there's a lot of things on there, like I was saying with the gel blasters, where they're not like a knockoff or it's not a fake. It's just, a cheaper Chinese version of it, which is what you're getting on Amazon anyways. You're just getting it straight from China as opposed to the one on Amazon with the name brand on it. So I think there are a lot of things you could buy and sell and potentially be profitable if that's the model of reselling you want to go down. Just don't maybe get suckered into the game pyramid scheme aspect of Temu. I think it's really smart of them to do it this way because I think it's going to cause them to blow up. I think they're going to, they had a Super Bowl ad, right? Like they're smart with marketing. I think that, like I said, I got 6 people to sign up for this today and a whole bunch of them are like, well, yeah, I picked a free gift. So what do I have to do to get my free gift? And I'm like, don't do it. You're going to have to get like 100 people to sign up in order to get your free gift.
This is like, what if TikTok and Temu are working together?
Yeah, it's smart.
Congressional hearings on Temu.
It's smart. So anyways, let us know in the comments below. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if I were to just trying to distill it down into like clear as possible, I think it's a good app that you can use for buying things cheap for yourself or for potentially for resale. It's dangerous in the sense of there's a lot of knockoffs that you can get. So you have to be more cautious. It might even be worthwhile as a reseller to look what's on there, because now I would never buy pit vipers, for instance, or certain brands of sunglasses or certain things. Even would be more careful with video games now because I see that you can get knockoffs on Temu for pennies on the dollar. So if now I'm going to a garage sale and somebody's got like, yeah, I've got these 10 pit vipers. And so there are things you got to be careful of. So as a reseller, I would still check the website. What are they selling? You get stuff personally, but be careful with the like referral thing. I think that there is some benefits potentially for some people, but you start to cross into the line of, I really felt bad. Like I felt like, man, I kind of actually like begged a bunch of people to sign up for this thing. And then now they're like, well, how do I get my free gift that I clicked on? I have to do this and I have to do that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I kind of feel like you got scammed a little bit. Not really. I mean, you technically could get the stuff, but it's a lot of work and is it really worth it? So interesting experiment. I figured I'd give it a try so you don't have to. Do whatever you want. If you want to try it yourself and you want to refer 100 friends and bug all your friends and text message them, go for it. But if it's too good to be true, oftentimes it is.
True. Now, you had mentioned the Discord a lot. In case you're wondering what we're talking about, as part of, supporting the Discord via Patreon, you can have access to the Discord. And so if you haven't yet helped us out and you want to, because we provide value and it's helped you out, go on over to patreon.com/PureHustle and sign up for $5.55 a month to help support our podcast. Right now, Mike and I are transitioning as far as the way the podcast goes. We're gonna have to buy new equipment, and if you sign up, definitely will help us out. You can also go to the link below, patreon.com/PureHustle and sign up for $5.55 a month. I love the Discord. Discord is great. I learned so much. I'm telling you, I'm learning more and more from the Discord than being on social media sometimes, because it's just right there. So definitely check it out. Also, if you want to follow us on social media, we are Pure Hustle Podcast on I'm slowing down here, on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And you can also follow us on Twitter, Pure Hustle Cast. We're going to be blue check marks just a little bit longer. So sorry. Okay. Anyways, you can always give us a call, 619-738-1170, 619-738-1170, or shoot us an email at purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. And as always, if you're listening to this podcast for the first time and you haven't checked us out on YouTube, jump on over, hit that subscribe button, watch one of our episodes. We always drop mini-sodes on Monday, and sometimes we drop random videos. So check us out there. And as always grateful for all the iTunes reviews. If you haven't yet, go on over to iTunes. We're almost at 700 reviews. We are the most reviewed reselling podcast, and it's because of all of you awesome people out there that have dropped reviews, 5 stars, and said, this is why I love listening to Pure Hustle Podcast. Your iTunes help is always greatly appreciated. All right, you ready to talk about some topics here?
Yeah, we'll do our reseller news. We might have to maybe move some of these to next time because we're already almost an hour. This is crazy. So let's see.
Having a good time.
Reselling continues to happen. eBay is doing eBay things. and we're going to talk about that. All of this and more on Reseller News. Orlando, take it away.
All right, so the first one isn't like newsworthy, but I think it's important. So I had mentioned about a month and a half ago how I had put my store on 50% off and sales were coming in like crazy, right? And basically for that month of famine that I had in January, or 2 months, January, February, it was all made up in March when I dropped that 50% off sale. But then things slow down. And it got back to normal. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but I don't like the fact that things have slowed down the way they slow down. And so I was wondering, okay, what should I do? Should I list more? Do I need to, end up running more promotions? Well, all I did is one day on a Friday, I turned off my sale at noon and I restarted the 50% off at 2:00. And as soon as 2 hit, sales. So what has been the lesson for me on this? It's the fact that having good enough items is just not good enough. Having, just great items that you find and selling them for a good price, that's not going to get you sales on eBay. And I know that's going to bother a lot of people. It's funny. On a side note, I went to the reselling forum on eBay. I'm just not going to go there. Even though it's supposed to be a valuable tool. So I went on how you can sort things out by, most newest or most reviewed or most helpful. So I went to most helpful. What kind of comments do you think were in the most helpful?
Is it negativity? Does negativity
it was
surface to the top there?
Here's some of the titles. Continue to bite the hand that feeds you. Buyer asks for gift card of purchase. Scam. I just wanted to thank eBay for giving its sellers the middle finger again. It's seriously not worth selling here anymore. Social security number wanted. Time for eBay to lift their banning of selling fabric face masks. eBay dead. Slow sales since 2019. eBay charges selling fees on taxes. Am I closed, eBay? I'm so tired of no sales. What is happening? Are we going out of business, eBay? And it just goes on and on and on and on. And I'm like, hey, this is a side note, but I'm like,
each one of those was a separate thread.
Yes. But that's under most helpful.
It's because they're just doing most helpful as like people agree and thumbs up it. And again, it kind of goes to that idea of like negativity loves
misery loves company.
Yeah, misery loves company. Negativity spreads. And so if people are doing negative things, it's more likely like if you go and you have a very negative experience somewhere, like even just the kind of negative experience, I'm more willing to leave, like do the survey and be like, yeah, it wasn't good. The server was bad, or this, the restrooms were super unclean. Whereas like things have to be really, really good in order to leave good feedback. Usually it's like you could take this survey and you can win $20. I'm like, sweet, and you walk out and you don't do anything. People are more likely to
the people with the itchy fingers will comment.
Yeah, and the whole like squeaky wheel gets the oil and all those things. Like, so people who are upset are more likely to say things and to agree with that. That being said, the fact that there's so many also is an indication that there is something potentially wrong that needs to be addressed. The fact that overall, even on eBay, the things that are most liked and most interacted with in general are negative things for eBay. Yeah, it's not great PR.
So the reason I bring this up is all these people, I was looking through all the slow sales and what people were talking about. And all these individuals were saying, hey, I don't want to do promoted listings. I don't want to run sales. I don't want to do coupons. I refuse to do any of these things. And I'm reading these things. I'm going, yeah, but you're not going to get more sales. You can go out and you can source the most amazing of things and price them competitively, and you still may not get sales. And this is going to tie into the eBay Q1 quarterly report that came out. Where do you think eBay made the most money on?
It's definitely on the fees they're charging sellers.
Correct. And so if that's how eBay's making the money, guess what? They're going to want you to promote your items. That's just facts. That's just the way it runs. So, and you could get upset about it, and that's understandable, be upset. But the reality is, I don't mind paying the 2 to 4% promoted ads if it's going to get me the sale and I'm going to make 5x on an item or 3x, 4x, whatever it is, right? Because most of my items I buy really low. So I encourage you, if you're still sourcing great items and your sales are slow, run the sale, do the coupon, run the promoted ads, accept offers, get that algorithm to start liking you again. Because this is what happened here, right? I had great prices. I had great items. I had run promoted ads. I was doing everything. But eBay just wanted to feel, I guess, the algorithm, Cassini, if that's the algorithm's name still. All I wanted to know was that I was still running deals. So I ended that sale. I ran the sale again. And now sales exploded again. And I'm probably going to start cycling that out until eBay eventually gets tired of that too. Right? Because even with the end listing and sell similar, like it does work. But I think after a while, like if that's the only thing you're doing, it's only going to work for so long. You're going to have to start listing brand new items. You're going to have to start doing the other things.
That makes sense. If you've only got the same items, if you haven't added new items and that's all you're doing, eventually you're going to get to the point where the desirability of the items you have in stock is going down because the stuff that was most desirable is already sold. So that makes sense that doing that same thing only over and over and over is not going to have the same kind of return every single time you do it. But again, it does make sense that a system that big it's got to refresh, right? There's a refresh time where they're kind of going back through stuff. And if you are doing new things to your store, whether it's new sales, new whatever, when eBay's kind of like refreshing its like the listings, it's going to bump you up. You're going to be closer to the top as opposed to, but you haven't done anything new. Your store is the exact same as the last 100 times we've refreshed over the last month. Yeah. I mean, you're lower down as opposed to like, hey, this store now has tons of new things and they're running a new sale and they're running. So as far as the system is concerned, even though the sell is the same amount, it's different. It's your store has refreshed since we've refreshed. There's something new that we're indexing for your store. And so let's bump it up. So it kind of makes sense. I don't think it's malicious. I don't think, I do think there's an element. I mean, we see it with things like Poshmark. We see it with things like Temu. We see it with other kind of socialized selling platforms where they want activity. They know that if a buyer or a seller is active, if they're coming in several times a day and doing something, it's more likely that they're going to be buying stuff, or it's more likely that they're going to be, telling their friends about it, or so they want people in their apps. I mean, that's why when we went to eBay Open a while back, they talked about like having almost like a blog platform where people can go in and learn about, like they'd have their almost own YouTube. Like if you want to learn about comics, there's going to be a comic page and there's going to be experts teaching about comics.
It's still there.
And what they're trying to do again is they're trying to make it where people make it part of their daily habit. Like the same way they go on Instagram and scroll, they're going on eBay and they're going to their little club on eBay and they're learning, because the more people are on a site, the better that site's going to do, even if it's just ads that they're selling, whatever it is. And so it makes sense that I don't think it's nefarious. I don't even think it's that smart that they're trying to, I think it's just, they want new things happening in your store. So how can we manipulate that as the seller? Well, end your sell, run a new sell, add some new items to your store, change the promoted value listings. Because if your store has had zero change, I mean, I learned some of this with, and some of you who have websites know a lot more about this, but like SEO and like Google search engine optimization, you've got a website, you got a blog. Google is running its like whatever the refresh is called, where they're crawling through the web and they're checking like things and they're indexing and they're moving things up and how many times has this site been visited. Well, if your store hasn't had a lot of action or your website hasn't had something new added, something changed, a lot of activity on it, then when the crawler goes through, it doesn't recognize any changes. Whereas this other website has had tons of new people, tons of new things. So now it's going to start interacting with that. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. eBay is just interacting with the stores that have got more going on with it. So use that knowledge to your advantage and say, what can I do in my store? Hey, I'm going to take all of my items and I'm going to change it from 1% promoted listing up to 2%. And then in a couple of days, I'll change it back down to 1.5 and then I'll go to 1 and then I'll go to 2 again. And you're just kind of playing with it because then eBay is like, oh, something's different with the store. And maybe that works for you. And if it's not that, maybe it's something else. But there's some things we can do to, I don't want to say manipulate, but to recognize, hey, this is the way it is. At least I'm not sharing items all day long like on Poshmark.
No, oh, that's a whole nother story. All right, now let's go to the quarter results from eBay. So the Q1 results, net revenues of $2.51 billion surpassed the Zacks consensus estimate of $2.48 billion. So they were more profitable than estimated. The figure increased 1% from the year ago quarter on reported basis. Strengthening momentum across the advertising offerings of eBay was a tailwind. eBay's promoted listings generated revenues of $285 million, up 27% on a reported basis and 31% on an FX neutral basis from the prior year quarter's levels. This fueled momentum across eBay's first-party advertising products. Total advertising offerings yielded $317 million in revenues, which grew 18.7% on a year-over-year basis. So they're definitely making money from whether it be standard, the regular promoted listings where you're just putting the 2%, or the advanced where they're doing pay-per-click. Now, here's the stuff that was concerning. However, softness in eBay's marketplace platform and weakening, this is from Yahoo Finance, by the way. However, softness in eBay's marketplace platform and weakening momentum among active buyers were concerns. eBay witnessed a year-over-year decline of 7% in the active buyer base, which stood at 133 million at the end of the first quarter. So that is concerning. That just means people are going to other places. Now, I don't think that is like terrible. It's just a sign of the times that a lot of other people have gained market share of the reselling space. Also, eBay's revenue, okay, their gross merchandise value, that means how much they've actually sold, okay, it's down compared to this same quarter last year. So in Q1 of, let me pull this up right here. In Q1 of 2022, okay, they had, I'm almost there. They had 19.4 billion, okay, in revenue. This year, Q1, 18.4 billion. So $1 billion loss when it comes to gross merchandise.
Yeah, and that what makes that really hard is when you see like, hey, we've grown, as we've made more money, we were profitable this year. Also, $1 billion less of items was sold on our platform this year, right? Like if they're making their money off of final value fees, if that's like the key of where they're making their money, and final value fees haven't gone up, then they would have gone down significantly. So what's happened is like they've got lower, they're doing worse. They're doing worse, but they're making more money. So it's like, where are they getting that money from? So they're squeezing it out of the sellers. And I think that's what frustrates people is it's like, yeah, you can on paper, I mean, until you dig down deep, you can say like, look, we've grown X% over, this year. We were actually profitable this quarter. We didn't think we'd be this profitable. I mean, sure, we're $1 billion less in gross, $1 billion less in items, value of items have sold on our platform. But we made more money. It's like, well, you make money because things sell on your platform. So if $1 billion fewer dollars sold on your platform, you should have made less money. But they made more. So that means that they're squeezing it out of us. So again, it's still better than potentially having a brick and mortar unless you're in a position where you can do that in the market.
It's still a great place to sell, because...
But it's still concerning numbers.
It is concerning numbers, but the fact of all the seller protections and the marketing, the fact that you can sell globally and you're only paying 12% in fees, like that's great. It's still great. Again, it's all about keeping your costs low, right? Somebody had mentioned to me on Instagram the other day, I keep posting about just letting things go because I keep selling things for cheap. And, for example, one of the posts was a Lee Stormrider jacket. Those vintage jackets, I used to be able to get $200 to $250 back in 2020, 2019, 2018. Now, it's anywhere from $100, $150. And then somebody had commented, wow, it seems that things are selling at recession prices. And I think that's right. I think part of being successful on eBay is adapting. And right now, you need to keep your costs low because your prices that you're going to list things for are going to be lower than usual. You can't expect the same return on items. And now if there's less buyers, right, it's going to even incline more for you to play in eBay sandbox. And if eBay wants you to promote listings, if eBay wants you to, send offers, run a sale, it's going to have to be part of the business. You're going to have to adapt. Now, one more item we'll cover here on our reseller topics is, did you know that now eBay is offering feedback for buyers with photos? I wanted to hear your thoughts on that. On Amazon, you ever gone on Amazon, you look at the feedback and people have posted videos or they've posted pictures. Yeah. That's what eBay is doing now.
Interesting. I can't imagine that being great for sellers. I mean, it might be good for the platform, which in a long roundabout way is good for the sellers. But I doubt somebody saying, hey, this was packaged really well is going to like take a picture of like how it was packaged before they opened it. you know? Whereas if somebody's really upset, might take some pictures of like a banged up box that's open that they even helped to rip a little bit more. And they're like, this is how they shipped it. So you're probably more likely to get pictures and feedback of like people being upset.
Imagine the negative feedback.
That's what I mean. Like the negative feedback is going to come with pictures. I doubt very many people are going to be like, this was the ticket I wanted, and take a picture of them holding the ticket, like smiling or something. Like,
well, some Etsy sellers were saying that they like it because I guess on Etsy it's been going on for a while, and people will wear their vintage piece and like go, "Hey, this is the jacket I got" or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's more probably for like people who have like replenishables. That would be
I think it's better for new items.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's better for sellers for new items
on Amazon, right? I go on there and I watch the reviews of videos and pictures because I like seeing how things, how they work and the quality of it. I can see that, but yeah,
it's not going to work for like the secondary.
Yeah, like I got this vintage hat. Check out. I mean, I think it's gonna be comedic.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Like the other day I had somebody had to return a Kobe jersey because I forgot to list that it was a kid's. I put adult. And the guy took a picture of himself, a selfie in the mirror with this, and it just looked hilarious. And I'm like, this is too funny. But imagine people just like, hey, I got these vintage shorts. Or, this sweater, this buyer sent me the sweater and it just didn't fit. Like I can only imagine what's going to be on that.
I feel like for the most part, you're only going to get pictures of non-new replenishable items if it's people upset. So I don't know. Maybe we'll just have to see. I mean,
but again, I want to bring us back to unpaid items hasn't been fixed yet. But this is something new that they've introduced. Like, how sad will it be if we get to August, 1 year from the announcement being made that unpaid items is going to be gone and we're still dealing with it? Just saying, eBay, we love you. I got maybe an old English tattoo of eBay on my back. Okay. But I'm telling you, like, just listen to your secondary sellers, please. All right. So that is so there's a topic I wanted to talk on here, the science of thrift shops, which I thought was fascinating, but I think we may make that into a themed episode.
Yeah, that sounds good.
There's a whole study done about what draws people to thrift shops. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that should be a themed episode for sure.
Hey, but something that is really cool before we move on to our BOLOs is Whatnot. So Whatnot is a great place if you want to source or you want to just buy things. You get $15 credit by just signing up via our link below. And you can buy from anybody. It doesn't have to be from us. You can buy that vintage toy you've been looking for, that vintage hat. We may be doing an auction here soon. Maybe Mike, before he heads off to Texas, needs to do a Whatnot auction of all his goods. We haven't even talked about that, but I still have stuff. I have a bunch of hats. I just want to go through all my hats and just like move all my hats. And so maybe I'll do a Whatnot auction. So if you haven't yet, go to the link below, sign up for Whatnot via our link, and get that free $15 credit. All right, let's talk about some BOLOs here.
Bolo.
What's your BOLO?
Yeah. All right. So my BOLO, this might be a little early, but I'm kind of already noticing it pick up. So did you watch the new Dune movie?
The one that comes out in November?
No, that's part 2.
Oh, it's fantastic. It is
so good, right?
It is one of the best movies that have it's good. Over and over a decade. I would say since Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah, no, it is such a good movie. And I read the Dune series, not all of the books. I think I've read like the first 4 in the series, and then it started getting really weird. I was like halfway through number 5, and I'm like, okay, I can't do this anymore. But the first book and then the second book is pretty good too. But the first book is an amazing book. And then the old movies, I mean,
not so much.
I mean, if you watched them as like younger and it was kind of just like, oh, it's kind of cool, but it wasn't as real to the story. It didn't, I mean, obviously the graphics weren't there. It was okay. But the Dune movie that came out last year was just,
it was epic.
It was so good. The soundtrack was amazing. The music was amazing. The sound design was, the picture, the cinematography, everything was so good. And my wife is not a sci-fi fan. And I had her go watch it with me in the theaters. I'm like, you've got, like, please, I want to see this movie. She's like, okay. And she left that and she's like, I actually really liked it. She's like, it had a good story. It wasn't just action. And so she sat and watched it again. We bought the movie and watched it with my in-laws, and she watched it again. And it's drawing in a ton of people who aren't even like Dune fans. Mm-hmm. And what I've noticed is, again, I was at Barnes & Noble. I'm seeing like, man, like, because I've played a lot of the newer Dune board games recently. And I'm like, man, Dune is actually picking, like, there's a lot of interest in Dune right now. And back in the day, they had like Dune 2000, I think it was what it was called. They had like a video game. Then there was like an Emperor of Dune video game.
Vintage toys are good money too.
And yeah, so all that to be said, it's a little early. I still think you're going to do really well if you find some of the older, Windows Dune stuff, or even like Sega Genesis. Like there's some Sega Genesis like Dune games that are just, they go for crazy amounts of money. Not all of them. Some go for like $10, but again, a lot of them are $100, $150 or more. So all that to be said, in November, part 2 of Dune is coming out, and I will be in line to watch it. Like, I don't watch a lot of movies in the theater. I will be watching that one.
Have you watched the new trailer?
I haven't watched it.
It just dropped.
I haven't watched it yet. By the time this comes out, this podcast, I for sure will have seen it. But anyways, I just realized when the new one was coming out, I knew it was sometime this year, later in the year. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, like I cannot wait. And I know the hype is going to be big. And so whenever, again, there's big hype for things, all of the collectors or people who are just like, oh yeah, that's a cool thing, they're going to be going and buying up all the old stuff. Mm-hmm. So now is the time. If you see it, if you find it even might be worthwhile. Again, it's always a little risky. But it's not always a bad idea to, potentially buy some of that stuff off of eBay now, knowing that it's going to go for even more once the hype comes. So I think Dune stuff is going to be a huge hit come here in a few months.
Yeah, I agree. So my bolo, it's a tried and true bolo, but I was reminded of this based on that pickup I had talked about where I picked up all that toner, and it's not a hustle of the week yet. But if you didn't catch our recent update episode, I talked about how I came across a bunch of toner and I paid $12 for all kinds of toner. Within 24 hours, I sold one for $30. A day later, I sold another one for $40. And somebody called me out in the comments and said, you guys should know by now that toner doesn't expire.
Yeah, me too. Because I was saying, I've sold some that expired. Okay, it's ink cartridges.
But expire. They can go bad after a while.
They can, but they go a lot longer.
Yeah. But anyways, I just thought it was funny because I totally missed that. But toner is so good. And here's why toner is good. Sometimes you have companies that will just go in there and they'll offer you a deal to buy all your toner. And so if you really want to move it quick, you can move it quick, right? You can say, they might offer you just 50% off. Like, for example, it's 60 and they'll say, hey, I'll buy all your toner for 30 a piece. And you know what? It may be worth it to make that quick money. There's also drop shippers that sell your toner too. I've had drop shipping right now where people are like, make sure that, the box is intact and you bubble wrap it and make sure the seal isn't broken. And I'm like, okay, it's all on my listing. Well, like, why are you stressing? And then I remember, oh, it's a drop shipper. They want to make sure that everything's all good.
Love them drop shippers.
So toner is my bolo because toner, for the most part, does not expire. Toner brings in good money. You can make some quick sales. And if it's a drop shipper that gets your stuff, even better because it's not going to get returned. They can't leave you negative feedback because if they ever try, all you have to be is, hey, by the way, it seems that you're a drop shipper. And usually they go away.
That's good.
So anyway, that's my bolo. All right. Hey, so what are you looking forward to here?
I'm looking forward to getting rid of some of the bigger things that I have locally. I'm going to make that a priority this next week is to get them up, get them listed, get them moved. So that way I don't have to worry about them during my upcoming move and just have that money. Some of those things, it's like, oh, I'll sell this on OfferUp or Facebook Marketplace. But again, because of the hassle, you don't always do it. But I definitely do not want to list. Like, for instance, I have like 6 or 7 rabbit cages that are like expensive rabbit cages. They're not like you go get it at a pet store. Like,
are they like top tier cages or something?
Yeah. There's actually in San Diego, there's a place that makes rabbit cages and they're like really, really well known. So occasionally you can find them at garage sales and
interesting.
Anyways, they're top tier. They're very expensive rabbit cages. And there's a lot of people who, raise rabbits for meat or other things. And so I've got a bunch of them and I'm definitely not going to ship them on eBay because it wouldn't be worth it. But selling them locally, I know I could probably make, close to $100 each on these. And I've got like 6 or 7 of them. I just haven't taken the time because again, I'm only going to sell like 1 or 2 at a time in my car because would take up the whole back of my 4Runner. They're pretty big things. And so it's going to be a pain, but I'm excited to get rid of them, get that money, and then just have that off my back. All right. What are you looking forward to?
So a few things here at garage sales. I just, the amount of stuff, you can pick up at garage sales. I mean, I spent $75 this last time, and I picked up like close to 100 items for $75. Right. And I don't even know how much money I'm going to make. And here's the thing. I did the Instagram story and I said, conservatively, I'm going to maybe make, $400. No, I think it's going to be like $1,000. Right. Sometimes you don't find out till after. And so I'm really looking forward to that. I just love getting out there. I love haggling. It's a lot of fun too. Also, I want to experiment more with sales. So recently, I just talked about how turning off the 50%, turning it back on. I want to do that again. Or maybe do 30% offer coupons. I want to see what works. If the 50% turning off, turning back on continues to work, I'll keep doing it. And if it doesn't work, I'll do something else. So stay tuned. I'll let you guys know about that. And I'm really excited about this new connection because I definitely believe this new connection is going to allow me to scale one more time in my reselling business. I'm in this weird spot right now where my son has one more year at the school he goes to and he'll be graduating. And that's going to really open the door for me as to what I should be doing. I've had offers at schools to become head of school. I've had offers to, continue doing, I'm doing homeschool co-ops where I teach history, and that's excelled. And I love it. I love that's a highlight of my week alongside with, it's not the same as garage selling. It's just a different kind of, enjoyment. And so this new connection may cause me to maybe continue on in reselling, or it may open the doors where I have a constant flow of inventory where I can maybe get back into more of education and do more of this on the side. One thing I do know is that I don't think I'll ever stop reselling. Whether it be I, become a head of school and I just do part-time, or maybe I just do both. I mean, there's people that just continue doing both. And so we'll just have to wait and see. So I'm kind of excited about this new connection and see what happens there.
I like it.
Hopefully you enjoyed this longer update episode. Appreciate every one of you tuning in. If you haven't smashed that like button, do so. If you're listening and you haven't seen us on YouTube, come on over and leave us a comment. Were we what you thought we would be? I always love the comments because it's kind of scary at times what people may come across when they see the YouTube. But appreciate every single one of you. Love all your support. And as always, make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling. Lates.
Peace.